I'm just going to start with saying that I know some of these games are a bit outrageous, but these are just the games I hope eventually maybe find their way onto Switch or Switch 2. Because, like, you never know what's going to happen. Alright, jumping in with number 10. Kingdom Hearts, just a whole series. And I know that it's on Switch already, but, like, it's in streaming form. Like, it's terrible. Yes, it's one of the best running streamed games on Switch. Doesn't mean it's good. Just because it's the best of the worst doesn't mean it's good. It's ridiculous that this game, it has to be streamed. All of the Kingdom Hearts games on Switch are streamed except one, and it's a fucking rhythm game one. And it baffles me that they didn't actually make ports. These are fucking PS2 games for the most part. I understand not bringing over 3, but they did bring in 3 in streaming form, so that's the only one I'm like, fine. Number 3, it's for the newest generation of consoles at the time. It was hard. I could see how it would be hard bringing that over. I perfectly get it. But not bringing over the PS2 games. The fucking PSP, like, the whole Kingdom Hearts 2.5 remix bullshit. It didn't make any sense why those had to be streamed as well. It just doesn't make any sense. Because these are the kinds of games that I like chipping away when I'm on a road trip or something like that. It's just ridiculous. Or like relaxing in bed and playing. It just doesn't make sense to me why they chose to make those streamed only. And that's why this, technically being already on Switch, is at number 10, because these are it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that these are being streamed, and these are perfectly capable of being on Switch. And because they're not technically physically on Switch, they're here at number 10. Now we're on number 9. Some of you might know this if you've watched some of my videos in the past, but I have mentioned I'm a very big fan of Destiny 2. I have over 1,500 hours on Steam for Destiny 2 and over 97 days on Xbox. I don't know what that works out into hours, but I think it's a lot. And this is really weird, a really weird game to want on Switch. But like, I can see myself, connecting to like a hotspot or something, or a mobile Wi-Fi unit on road trips, or just relaxing in bed or something, just cranking away a few strikes, or playing a couple rounds of Crucible before bed, laying in bed. And it's like, I don't understand why this hasn't came over. This game originally released in 2017 on the last generation of consoles. I don't see why this couldn't have made the transition to Switch. I know the Switch is very much hamstrung, but I can see this very easily running on a Switch too, considering that the leaks are looking like the Switch 2 is about a little bit more powerful than the last generation of consoles. So with that in mind, I don't see any reason why this couldn't run on Switch 2, and I super hope that it comes to Switch 2, because frankly, it's one of my most played games. I do think it's a really fun game. It's not in a good state at the moment. There's a lot of problems with the game, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't come to Switch, and I super duper fucking hope that it comes to Switch in some form, because it's just such a fun game, and I think it has a great deal of potential on Switch. Because like, if you look at Warframe, one of like biggest ports, best done ports I've ever seen for Switch. It is graphically impressive for the Switch. It is a stunning looking game on Switch, and it runs great. And I don't see why Destiny 2, a very similar, designed game, couldn't run just as well. And mechanically, I think it lends itself very well for the quick pick up and play kind of thing you do with the Switch. Like, you can just drop, do one strike, put the Switch down, and then you can easily pick it back up later and then keep grinding away. And I feel like it just would allow a greater degree of flexibility having that kind of game on Switch, and allows a greater variety of, areas to play. Like, if I can only play Destiny 2 at my PC, it grossly limits the amount of playtime I actually do get in the game, especially as I'm getting older with less time to sit down and play games when I'm on the go. Being able to have this game on the Switch would mean a lot. And I know you can get it on something like the ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, or with Steam Deck specifically with Windows, or like iNeo devices, and it's the same stuff like that. But like having the optimization that comes with being on a console, I feel like will greatly benefit Switch 2 if it ever does come to Switch 2, and I do hope it does. I feel like that will greatly benefit the Switch more, like as like being like, oh, if you want to play Destiny 2 portably, don't buy an ROG Ally, don't buy a Steam Deck and put Windows on it. Buy the Switch 2, while it might not eventually be as, good a quality as the home console versions, or even as the Steam Deck in ROG Ally versions. It will be more optimized and it would run better. It might not look as pretty, but it would run better there, or look just as good and run just as good as the last generation consoles at the very least. So I think that gives this a great deal of potential. Moving right along to number 8. Number 8, it might be also a bit of a weird one, but I feel like it has a perfect home on Switch, that being the Jedi Fallen Order series of games. That includes Jedi Survivor, which I know is a big stretch, but I do know that did come to last generation consoles. So, and like I said with Destiny, if the Switch 2 is as powerful as they're saying it is, I don't see any reason why a port couldn't be made for that one, but super don't see why Fallen Order couldn't make the jump. I feel like Star Wars actually is a great home on Nintendo, being, over the last couple of years, we've been getting a ton of ports of older Star Wars games, and they're all being fantastically created, and I'm very hopeful and excited to see whether or not something like this will be done in the future, because I feel like these Fallen Order and Survivor games are very fun, and I feel like being able to pick up and play those kinds of games, very similar in vein to like Breath of the Wild, how you can turn, just put it into sleep mode and pick it right back up and, go back to exploring the world of Hyrule. I want to be able to, pick up my Switch and instantly jump into, exploring Kobo, or going through one of the places in Fallen Order. Like just running around Kashyyyk is a lot of fun, and just being able to just put my Switch in sleep mode and put it down and then come back to it later very easily is something that I would thoroughly enjoy. And I was harking back to like road trips and stuff, but I did the majority of my gaming as a kid on my DS and stuff, playing on road trips, and I just love that feeling. I felt like I got the most done gaming while sitting in the car, and these kinds of games I feel like would lend themselves very well to that environment. And even just multitasking, I'm a big multitasker. It does drain my enjoyment of certain games, but it also is just have something mind-numbing to do while consuming content. I constantly found myself playing on my Switch, in portable mode, even though I'm at home. I just have something like YouTube on my TV while I'm playing on my Switch. And it's stuff like that where I feel like having these higher budget, not necessarily higher budget, but these larger scale games like Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor on the Switch 2, or even the Switch 1, if, maybe they make a port out for the Fallen Order at some point in the next year and a half or so, before the Switch 2 comes out, which is highly unlikely. Most of these games I'm suggesting would get a port onto the Switch 1, even though some of them the Switch might be powerful enough to handle it. It's just a time thing. I highly doubt any of these ports are in the works. So if they ever do become ports to the actual Nintendo systems, it probably wouldn't happen for the Switch 1. It probably most likely happen to the Switch 2, hence the naming of this video. Well, yeah, and I just do hope that something like Fallen Order, it doesn't have to necessarily be a part of these games. It could just be the next Star Wars Fallen Order Cal Kestis franchise, the next version of that game, this next sequel coming to the Switch 2. I don't necessarily mean they have to be ports. I just want one of those games on the Switch, because I think they're fantastic and I love them, and I think they would have a perfectly good home on Switch. For number 7, I'm pairing up two franchises because I don't necessarily care which one makes the jump over, and one of them is already in the works from current rumors, but I do hope we get a Call of Duty or Battlefield, because honestly, I don't care which. I think both are plenty fun. Both are in a terrible state though right now, but I don't really care, because all I really do with Call of Duty nowadays, I just hop in, play, like a handful of PvP matches, TDM and stuff, and I just jump right back out. I play until I get, instantly, the moment I come with up to any resistance, or I'm just instantly tired or annoyed with something, I just instantly leave the game. I haven't had more than maybe more than 24 hours of playtime in a Call of Duty game in like 4 or 5 years. The last Call of Duty game I had like an exorbitant amount of time in was COD World War II. I know that is a very divisive game. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I genuinely liked COD World War II, and I kind of liked Vanguard. Vanguard was close. It had like 19 hours, but like to have any Call of Duty game, to be honest, would be best. It's unlikely that we'll see anything like a Black Ops 2 port or something, or even like a Battlefield 4 port. Like I genuinely loved Battlefield and Call of Duty, and I just want one of them on the Switch. I think mainly what I want is just a major first-person shooter on the platform, and I know we have stuff like Warface, stuff like Apex Legends, Fortnite, if you want to consider that a real shooter option. But like, I seriously just want my traditional. I just want to shoot the guys in the way I'm familiar with. And the way I'm familiar with shooting the guys is Call of Duty and Battlefield, and I just want one of those to come to Switch or Switch 2. And considering that Nintendo signed a deal with Activision and Microsoft to guarantee 10 years of Call of Duty on their systems is likely to be the case. And this isn't really a matter of if, is a matter of when Call of Duty is going to make the jump. And considering that they did say they had plans to put Call of Duty on the current Switch, it probably would be a port of like COD Mobile or something. But I just hope, and I can't wait for Call of Duty or Battlefield, I can't stress, or Battlefield, to come to the Switch. And I think it's just going to be a generally fun time to have that on Switch. Okay, number 6 might be a very popular choice, but it's one of my childhood favorite games, and as of lately, looks more likely it could happen. Conkers Bad Fur Day. I don't necessarily care if this gets ported, or we get the ported remake, or we get an entire remake of this game. But I seriously hope that we get Conkers Bad Fur Day in some form or another on the Switch, because it's amazing. I love this game. It's so fucking funny. The Great Mighty Pooh. I remember as a kid I was singing that to no end to my parents, and they wanted to murder me. And my uncle still to this day, I go see him at the pizza place he owns, and he has the N64 set up in the party room, and he just has Conkers Bad Fur Day as the loading thing. And I told him he probably shouldn't have that considering how inappropriate the game is, and he was like, that's fine, it's fine. You grew up with it and you're fine. And I'm like, fair enough. And I just hear kids running around, if they ever get that far into the game or they play one of the saves that are at that point, just also still running around singing The Great Mighty Pooh, and it's just amazing. And I do hope, and with Activision and with Microsoft being so buddy-buddy with Nintendo, and putting things like Banjo-Kazooie on NSO, I do see a future where Conkers Bad Fur Day can make the jump. Not necessarily as a remake or a port or even as a sequel or something, but as getting put on NSO, which I think is the most likely situation. Like, once Nintendo starts running out of games to put on NSO, like they probably are, I don't really know. I don't care about NSO that much. But if this came to NSO, I'd care. And I love Banjo-Kazooie, but I've played them to death. I haven't played Conkers Bad Fur Day as much as I did Banjo-Kazooie, and I would be super interested to see this come to NSO or something like a port of the original Xbox version that they made, or a port of the original, or a whole new remake. That is something I'd be super interested in, because I remember back during the days of like Project Spark, if you remember that, they had a whole like Conkers Bad Fur Day thing going on, and they did a lot of tech demos with Conkers Bad Fur Day, being on the HoloLens and stuff. If anybody remembers that device Microsoft made. And I just genuinely think that this might be a very fun and interesting game to have on modern platforms, especially considering how close Microsoft and Nintendo's relationship has been over the last couple of years. Number 5 is probably what we were all hoping for when we started getting Pokemon games on Switch. And for number 5, I chose Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. And when I originally played this game, like almost 10 years ago now, it was amazing. I was like, this is what a console Pokemon game feels like. And then comparing it to these soulless gross, fucking poor performing modern incarnation of home console Switch Pokemon games. I'm so disappointed with how everything has played out for Pokemon over the last couple of years. And this will probably never happen because Pokemon never really likes to go into the back catalog of Pokemon games and updates them. They just make new games or something like that for like new Pokemon Snap, which it took almost 20 fucking years to come out and come with a sequel for such a popular game. So I'm not holding my breath for another Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness game. Unlikely to get a sequel, probably. Unlikely to get a remake. And unlikely ever to get ported, because Nintendo seems to have an aversion to porting N64 games, GameCube games to Switch, unless they're in the form of a collection. So I'm like, it's unlikely that we'll ever see this game or even see it mentioned again. And so I just, for a wish list kind of game and for the kind of list I'm making, it is perfect at number 5. It is one I really do hope comes to Switch or Switch 2 or gets a sequel or something like that. But it'll probably never happen, and I will be forever saddened by that, because this was a fantastic game that never got made. Or not, it got made, but I meant like get a sequel that won't be made. On to number 4. Number 4 isn't that surprising, and I feel like it's less of a matter of if and more of when, like in some previous situations. Probably another, event style kind of thing where like Mario's 35th anniversary, we'll probably see this for Mario's 40th anniversary. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is the game for number 4, and I do hope that at some point we see, because I didn't really like Galaxy 1 for some reason as a kid. I don't know why. I just kind of flew around the main hub area, and I was like, this is boring. But the more linear style for Mario Galaxy 2 was my preferred version of the game, and I played copious amounts of Mario Galaxy 2, and it's a pretty standard choice for this kind of list, and I feel like it fits perfectly at number 4, because this game will probably eventually find its way on a future Nintendo platform, just like how Mario Galaxy 1 eventually found its way on another Nintendo platform. So my hopes are pretty high that we'll eventually see this, but I'm not holding my breath for it to be anytime soon, and I just hope that they find a way to make it feel right and normal to play with a controller, because I just hated playing Mario Galaxy 1 on Switch in the collection, because it just felt so awkward to play with the weird motion plus normal stick controls of using a pro controller while playing the game. It just felt so weird, especially in handheld mode. It felt so strange. On to the next one. Okay, hear me out. Number 3, Elden Ring. This will probably never happen, but I'm basing the idea of this coming to Switch 2 on the idea of that we got Dark Souls Remastered, and I don't see any reason why, considering the potential power of the next generation Nintendo Switch 2 is comparable to the last gen, and Elden Ring came to last gen. So I'm basing this on that mostly, and the idea of that maybe FromSoft might see the potential of putting this on Switch, especially because the last time I played Dark Souls Remastered was on my Switch, and I waited to buy Dark Souls Remastered specifically on my Switch because I already owned it on all my other platforms already, and I was like, I need to have this portably. This is such a fun game to have portably, and it's amazing. It ran great on Switch, Dark Souls Remastered, and so I'm just hoping Elden Ring might get the same treatment, considering how popular it was, and how popular a potential Switch 2 could be. Could mean that, one of the premier ports could be an Elden Ring, and I know this would probably never happen, but a man can dream, right? A man can dream. On to a more likely situation, but also just as depressing as some of the previous ones. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is my choice for number 2, and it is kind of sad to see the state of this game, considering all the other Zelda games on Switch were ports, at least for this kind of era of Zelda, kind of bad. I did not like Skyward Sword all that much, Especially, I didn't like it back then. I didn't like the port because it just looked like it was higher resolution. That was about it. And granted, that's all those really need is to be at least like 1080p, and then boom, now they're HDified and they're remastered. But I feel like they didn't go far enough in fixing some issues with that game, like how it controls, mainly how the combat works. And I'm not talking about they need to do a fucking massive overhaul of this game, but just make it feel right using a controller. Especially because of how terrible the motion controls on the Switch can be at times. Because it lacks it was like the gyroscope that the Wii Motion Pluses had. And it's like just a terrible experience in my opinion overall. And I hope that if they bring this game over, which is my favorite Zelda game, and I didn't play it on Wii, I played it on GameCube. I played the GameCube version of Twilight Princess. And I just hope that this game finds its way at some point in the future on the Switch, and then they port the version from the GameCube, not the Wii. Because holy fuck, does this feel terrible to control with a Wiimote when I grew up using a fucking GameCube controller to control this thing. It's so weird to use a Wiimote. I didn't like it. I so didn't like it. Okay, number one, before anybody yells at me, I know, I already put Elden Ring on here, but I'm talking about specifically Dark Souls. And my hope is a lot higher on Dark Souls, this franchise, making it over to the Switch. Because there was a bunch of rumors a few years ago about this Dark Souls 2 coming to Switch. And then it got scrapped at some point, which made me really sad when I started hearing that around the internet. But I do seriously hope the rest of the Dark Souls games come to Switch, because I feel like these games make so much sense on Switch. Because I feel like it's a perfect home, because you can easily rage quit, or you can throw the thing. I just think it's a fantastic spot for these games. I just want my favorite games to be portableized. I just desire so much to play Dark Souls 2 on the go. I want to be able to take it with me everywhere. Because even if I might not even fucking play the game, a lot of these games, if it's on Switch and I buy it, I might play half of the game and then just never touch it again. But the glory of having them on Switch is that the moment I need to leave the house, I'm taking my Switch with me, and it has all the opportunities to play those games on the go and be able to pick up right where I left off. And just being able to do that is amazing. And I fucking, for God's sakes, want Dark Souls, the rest of the Dark Souls games on Switch. And we got Dark Souls Remastered. We got fucking one of the best ones. I know Remaster has a lot of problems, but I'm talking about I'm just generalizing here. I'd much rather have it on Switch than not at all, kind of thing. And even if the versions of Dark Souls 2 and 3 that we get on Switch are the most bastardized, the most changed, the most not original feeling Dark Souls games on the planet, I don't care. I just want them on Switch. Because even if they're just terrible, at least I can say that I have Dark Souls on my Switch and I'm happy about it. And that's all I want. It's unlikely to come to Switch 1, but it's Switch 2 maybe. Switch 2 maybe. And it's just come on, man. Come on, FromSoft. Man up. Do it. Fucking do it. Do it or you're fucking stupid. And I would pay so much money for that. I would pay $70 for that. A whole $70 for games that I own on 4 different fucking consoles. And it's just, a man can only dream so long before he goes insane. And I've been hoping for Dark Souls, the whole franchise and stuff, to make it over to Switch since the Switch came out. And I'm going crazy with how much I want this on Switch. And seeing people play Dark Souls 3 and 2 and remastered and stuff on stuff like the RG Ally just makes me want it so much more, because to know that it's possible, to know it doesn't need high-end hardware to run very well. Fuck, man, I have Dark Souls 3 running on my shitty laptop from 5 years ago on integrated graphics. I can get it running on that at around 60 FPS, 640p, but still it runs at well enough for me to say this is a good enough experience for me to beat the game this way. And god damn it, it should go on Switch. I don't see any reason why I couldn't. It's a fucking fantastic game, and I feel like it could find a good audience on Switch. I feel like there's a decent amount of people that want those kinds of experiences on Switch, that those games could do quite well. And sorry for me ranting about Dark Souls on Switch for so long. Thanks for watching. Comment down below, what games do you hope come to Switch? Why do you disagree with some of my choices? Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Have a wonderful day.